Okay, here we are. We're continuing with the Heart of the Lotus Sutra by Daisaku Ikeda, his lecture. We're going to continue with chapter 4 and 5 tonight. So we're going to do 2 chapters tonight because they're only about 4 or 5 pages long each. Okay, so this would be on page 71 of this text. And if there's any way somebody can help share over there, I really don't have enough books to do it. Can you... Yeah, share with them, and then you share with her, so that so that we're all together. Okay, great. All right, we ready? Going? All right. So, chapter 4, page 71. Shoi shaga nyorai hobin chikin haramitsukai igu soku. Why is this? Because the translation is, why is this? Because the thus come ones, plural, are fully possessed of both expedient means and the paramita of wisdom. In this section, Shakyamuni continues to praise the immense wisdom of the Buddhas, or the thus come ones, plural. Until this point, he has praised their wisdom from the standpoint of the immeasurable practices that they've carried out. Here he discusses the power of their wisdom to guide people and the state of life they've attained as a result. Knowledge and wisdom are not the same. And this is a very important point that I think everybody always understands, but President Ikeda is going to emphasize it now. Continuing from the preceding passage, Shakyamuni now clarifies why the Buddha could use various causes and similes to guide people and have them renounce attachments. In expedient means and the paramita of wisdom means the perfection of wisdom. The Sanskrit word paramita means to attain or to perfect. Also, fully possessed in the above passage means endowed with. The Buddha, having perfected various practices and attained an extremely profound state of enlightenment, possesses skillful means and perfect wisdom for guiding people in a way that exactly matches their capacity. All right? In the section that follows, Shakyamuni explains specifically what he means by wisdom. There he says that the Buddha possesses immeasurable compassion, unlimited eloquence, power, fearlessness. I will discuss the contents of this passage in detail later, next chapter. For the time being, let it suffice that these powers are functions of the wisdom of the Buddha, that the Buddha uses to guide people to happiness. Buddhism is a religion of wisdom. President Toda would often make the following point. One cause of people's misfortune today is that they confuse knowledge with wisdom. Knowledge is not wisdom. He says that unequivocally, right? As a point-blank statement. Knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge may serve as a door that opens the way to wisdom, but knowledge itself is definitely not wisdom. For example, for instance, and that's why we can't just read. We can't just read and study and never chant Daimoku and never awaken our Buddha nature, because the knowledge that we receive manifests as wisdom in our life based on our Daimoku to the Gohonzon. Do you understand? That's what brings wisdom forth. Yes. Your brain is for knowledge. Your life is a manifestation of the Buddha nature. That is wisdom. All right? So, for example, continuing on page 72, taking business classes in college doesn't guarantee you will prosper in the business world. In fact, many realize commercial success without ever having gone to business school. Reading many books on child rearing doesn't guarantee that someone can parent well. The truth is that innumerable factors contribute to children's growth. There are even accounts of mothers who experience acute depression or anxiety because, in raising children, they encounter situations that completely contradict what they have read in books. For sure. Knowledge is, of course, necessary. To know something is a great strength. In modern society in particular, it might be said that knowledge has increasingly come to be used as a weapon. At the same time, merely having knowledge does not produce value. Happiness cannot be created by knowledge alone. An increase in knowledge definitely does not equate to an increase in happiness. which we know to be true, right? The important thing is for people to possess the wisdom to use their knowledge most effectively. To take one example, theories on child education often stress the importance of talking to children at their eye level. Someone with experience in this area comments as follows: what should you do when a child starts pleading with you to buy him or her something at a store or somewhere and then sits down on the floor and cries, refusing to budge until you give in? Under such circumstances, no amount of standing above the child and scolding will do any good. The best approach is to sit down right there together with the child. When you do so, the child, in amazement, will stop crying. And if you then quietly admonish the child, you will find that he or she is surprisingly ready to do as you say. This method, of course, will not necessarily work every time. Still, it doubtless represents individual wisdom arising from the parent's desire to connect on a heart-to-heart level with the child. Knowledge of the importance of talking at the child's eye level produced this kernel of practical wisdom. Next, it says, always ask, what purpose does this knowledge serve? Okay? Now, how many of you have a habit of doing that in front of the Gohonzai? Probably none of you. I don't either. This is really a source of wisdom. What he's saying, how do you turn knowledge into wisdom now? It's by querying it yourself in front of the Gohonzan. Okay? Okay, so that's what he's going to talk about now. Always ask, what purpose does this knowledge serve? That's the way you're going to develop wisdom. Okay? You got to use your brain. You can't just input all this stuff and let it sit there. This is really about doing human revolution. This is really about attaining the 10th world. Okay? That doesn't happen without an expressed action of effort. Okay? And your life condition as the years go by will increase so that you begin to start to ask those kinds of questions. Because after a while, your practice isn't going to be about getting benefits as it relates to external things. It's going to be like, what the hell is going on here? You know, what is this all about? Why have I experienced where am I going with this? Okay, it's when you start to ask those deeper kinds of questions about your role for Kosen Rufu. What is that? You're then actually querying, pondering the reality that you're a Buddha. Whether you realize that or not, anything that you think about in front of the Gohonzan that pertains to faith and Kosen Rufu actualizes the reality of who you are, what your true identity is. All right? So always ask, what purpose does this knowledge serve? Unless we continually ask ourselves, what purpose does this knowledge serve? And he says continually. So that means even when you're old and you think you already know a lot of stuff, right?
Right.
Unless we continually ask ourselves, what purpose does this knowledge serve, we are liable to fall into the trap of pursuing knowledge for its own sake, which is what it's normally pursued for. To illustrate, a teacher's mission is to provide instruction. The teacher's purpose is to cultivate the pupil's character and wisdom and help them, to cultivate the pupil's character and wisdom and help them acquire skills that they will need to lead happy lives. This is the purpose of the teacher's knowledge. But unless the teacher also possesses the wisdom necessary to attain this objective, he or she is not a true educator. Right? Educator? Right? Okay. Politicians, as public servants, have the duty to devote themselves selflessly to the people's happiness and prosperity. Toward that end, they must seek the counsel of many others and work to implement their ideas. If politicians lack the wisdom to take such actions, then they are not true politicians. Right. Exactly. The purpose of scholars, you're all scholars of Buddhism. You should consider yourself as such. The purpose of scholars, likewise, is to contribute to humanity through their academic endeavors. We need to constantly ask ourselves whether we have realized our fundamental mission, our purpose. Wow, what's he talking about there then? Huh? Being bodhisattvas of the earth. He's talking about actually chanting Daimoku about the reality that you understand and perceive yourself as a bodhisattva of the earth. And where are you as it relates to achieving your mission in life as a bodhisattva of the earth? It's not by chance, by accident, or by coincidence that you came and manifested as a bodhisattva of the earth. It was to accomplish something specific. You took a vow, it says.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you took a vow, you made a determination. Where are you at in that determination? If we should forget this and instead gloat over how much we know, over our standing or access to information, then our basic spirit will become distorted. Okay? We're doing it for ourselves, for the glory, for the accolades. We're not doing it as Buddhists for the sake of making everyone equal to ourselves and ending their suffering. By rights, education, science, politics, economics, and all fields of human endeavor exist to serve the happiness of all humanity. For what purpose, then, did the Buddha appear in the world? His objective, too, was to enable people to become happy, and specifically to enable all people to realize a state of eternal happiness. Because once you achieve Buddhahood in your present form, you always achieve Buddhahood in your present form. It's eternal. Thus, we don't go to heaven forever. We just are manifest in that state. Thus, there is no contradiction between Buddhism and other areas of human endeavor. Knowledge in all areas yields the greatest value when based on the wisdom of Buddhism. Right? Why? Why does he say that? Knowledge in all areas yields the greatest value when based on the wisdom of Buddhism. Because the wisdom of Buddhism is about everything about helping other people, helping all people. So when any kind of knowledge would be utilized toward that kind of a purpose, it's the ultimate way that you could utilize that knowledge in a meaningful manner. In the Expedient Means chapter, the one we're reading here, the second one out of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni explains that the Buddha's purpose in appearing in this world is to open the door of Buddha wisdom to all living beings, to show the Buddha wisdom to living beings, to cause living beings to awaken to the Buddha wisdom, and to induce living beings to enter the path of the Buddha wisdom. These four aspects of opening, showing, causing to awaken to, and inducing to enter together are referred to as the one great reason for the Buddha's appearance in this world, in the world. In short, Shakyamuni taught that the path to happiness lies in each person developing his or her own wisdom. The path to happiness lies in each person developing his or her own wisdom. So what does that tell you? The Buddha himself could develop this wisdom because of his strong sense of purpose and awareness of his mission. So what does that short little paragraph tell you there? In short, Shakyamuni taught that the path to happiness lies in each person developing his or her own wisdom. If you develop your wisdom, what has happened?
Naturally, you want to help.
You've attained Buddhahood. Now, the wisdom that they're talking about is Buddhahood. Okay? The wisdom that can impart wisdom to others. Right? So, in short, Shakyamuni, the path to wisdom lies, or the path to happiness lies in revealing your true identity. This is once again gets back to the truth that there's nothing for you to attain, there's only for you to reveal. You know, bodhisattvas of the earth are already Buddhists.
You're the Buddha.
Okay? They're the original disciples of the original teacher. They've already attained enlightenment. That's the difference between them and the bodhisattvas of the theoretical teaching. Okay? So, in short, Shakyamuni taught that the path to happiness in each person lies in each person developing his or her own wisdom, attaining Buddhahood. The Buddha himself could develop his wisdom, attain Buddhahood, because of his strong sense of purpose and awareness of this mission, to reveal that Buddhahood in his present form and to share it with others and to leave a teaching that showed them how to attain that same state themselves, all right, in a single lifetime. Tend the ills of humankind with the medicine of the law, bottom of page 74. Buddhism teaches the supreme way to live. The question and answer sessions President Toda held were truly forms of wisdom to lead people to happiness. With great confidence, he candidly gave guidance regarding people's various worries and sufferings in life, from sickness and loss of work to debt and marital problems, hitting the nail on the head every time. Through his encouragement, top of page 75, Through his encouragement, participants immediately recovered their spirits and gained renewed courage and hope, which is what's necessary to go back to the Gohonzon and reawaken your own state of Buddhahood. He would remark, people from how they walk, from how they perk up their shoulders, from their voices. Similarly, from the slightest gesture, from how they open a door, you can tell what their worries are. A true leader of Buddhism can discern with such depth and deft the state of people's lives and can explain the law to them in a way tailored to their situation because they already have a relationship. If that Buddha is encouraging you, you and that Buddha have a relationship. There's no separation between your Buddhahood and theirs. They're trying to share theirs with you, right?
Right.
Okay, so they'll always have the right things to encourage you, right? It is difficult. Yeah, you don't meet people by chance. This is the point. It is difficult to explain Buddhism correctly. That is, in a manner that accords with the time and the people's capacity. That's why you're always around people that will relate to what you have to say to them. Okay? There is an account of how even Shariputra blundered in expounding the law. Shariputra was once explaining Buddhism to a blacksmith and a laundryman. Neither could grasp the teaching, however, and they both developed doubts. Shariputra ought to have taught the blacksmith the practice of breath-counting meditation and the laundryman the practice of meditating on the vileness of the body. The reason is that a blacksmith's job entails continually striking hot iron with a hammer while fanning the flames with a bellows. A blacksmith, therefore, constantly works to control the movement of air. Had Shariputra explained the breath-counting meditation to the blacksmith, he could have understood it immediately and advanced in his Buddhist practice. Likewise, since the work of a laundryman involves cleaning dirty clothes, had Shariputra taught him the meditation on the vileness of the body, he without doubt could have grasped it.
Right.
But Shariputra taught each the teaching appropriate to the other. As a result, they failed to gain any result from their practice. For all his efforts, Shariputra succeeded only in causing them suffering because he was trying to fill them with his knowledge.
Right.
He wasn't trying to approach it from the perspective of wisdom. To expound a teaching appropriate to each person is extremely difficult. Nichiren Daishonin, however, established a method of practice accessible to all people regardless of their capacity. Because all we have to do is teach them to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gonzo. We don't have to teach them
Exactly.
all of this, right? They'll
Right.
be on their way on their own.
Right.
Thus, he said, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is recommended for people of all capacities. And for precisely this reason, the benefit of telling others about the mystic law is immense. An experienced doctor can diagnose a patient's malady accurately and prescribe a treatment that matches the person's constitution. Such a doctor possesses, top of page 76, it's the first full paragraph. Such a doctor possesses not only medical knowledge, but also the wisdom to use that knowledge effectively. True knowledge is at one with wisdom. True knowledge is wisdom. Wisdom is true knowledge. All right? There probably are no physicians who would simply tell a patient, you have appendicitis. Without doing anything about it, it might be said that true medical knowledge or wisdom lies in curing people of their conditions and returning them to their state of health, not just telling them what's wrong with them. The Buddha is a great physician of life who guides all to happiness. The Buddha clearly discerns the fundamental cause of people's suffering and teaches them the path to eternal happiness, how to live a boundlessly fresh and exhilarating life. This is the wisdom of the Buddha. Now, what did he just say there, though? The Buddha is a great physician of life who guides all to happiness. That's still you. Don't think of that Buddha as Daisaku Ikeda or Shakyamuni or one of the great names in Buddhism. That's you. In whatever fundamental manner you do this, you do this. Think about it. You do this. You are a great physician of life who guides all people to happiness. You tell everybody the same truth. And it's the truth. Okay? It's the true teaching. You clearly discern the fundamental cause of people's suffering, that they have karmic impediments. This is all the basis of Buddhism, right? And teaches them the path to eternal happiness. The path is to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So that's what you're doing all the time. You're practicing this Buddhism right now exactly as you are, right? You are the Buddha. The Buddha is a great physician. You are a great physician if you act as such. This is the wisdom of the Buddha. In this age, when it has become natural for people to lack compassion, no one can match SGI members in bringing a fresh, revitalizing breeze to many others. That's what he's talking about. We all do that. There is no other popular organization in the world whose members are so sincere or who pray and take action as There is no other popular organization in the world whose members are so sincere or who pray and take action as we do for others. There are many eminent people and intellectuals in the world, but I believe the SGI members are even more respectable. You are doctors and nurses of wisdom worthy of the greatest admiration. So he just said exactly the truth about you. If you don't view yourself as such, you need to chant more Daimoku. Okay, bottom of page 76. Faith contains the pyramid of wisdom. Remember that. Faith contains the pyramid of wisdom. How do Shariputra and the others gathered at the assembly react? When hearing Shakyamuni expound the Expedient Means chapter, did they think, I couldn't possibly have even an iota of the perfect wisdom of the Buddha in me? No! In fact, they say to themselves, if this teaching represents the wonderful Buddha wisdom that can save people, then I want to learn it too. I want to make it my own. Okay? That's the attitude we should have. Not that this is something that we can't accomplish. It's something we're already guaranteed we're experiencing as we live it before we're able to actually perceive it in truth. In Expedient Means, Shariputra and the others wish to hear the teaching of perfect endowment. In other words, they arouse a seeking mind for the path leading to the Buddhist state of life, which is fully possessed of both expedient means and the paramita of wisdom. But yours is already endowed. Understand that? Rather than think I've heard all I need to hear, they become even more spirited and encouraged, except the 5,000 arrogant ones that leave before he starts talking, right? In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren Daishonin says that this teaching of perfect endowment is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, so when he said he says, in Expedient Means, Shariputra and the others wish to hear the teaching of perfect endowment. He's saying here that they wish to hear the teaching of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. All right, the teaching that leads directly to Buddhahood. All right, in the pre-Lotus Sutra teaching, Shakyamuni expounded the 6 paramitas as practices for bodhisattvas to attain the state of life of the Buddha. The idea that through carrying out the 6 paramitas of almsgiving, keeping the precepts, forbearance, assiduousness, meditation, and obtaining wisdom, they could approach the state of life of the Buddha. Such a practice carried out in lifetime after lifetime over a vast period of time is called countless kalpas of practice. However, the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra, part of the threefold Lotus Sutra, which serves as an introduction to the Lotus Sutra, states, although they have not yet been able to practice the 6 paramitas, the 6 paramitas will themselves appear before them. In other words, even though we do not practice the 6 paramitas, by embracing the Lotus Sutra, we are naturally endowed with their benefit. So we don't have to do those things that the people in the former and the middle of the day of the law had to do to get to the state of Buddhahood, right? It's because we've already done them all. Believe in the Gohonzon at the bottom of page 77. Believe in the Gohonzon and advance with the SGI. Distinctions and benefits. The 17th chapter of the Lotus Sutra explains that the benefit of those who understand and believe in the Lotus Sutra, when they hear it expounded, is great beyond measure. It says that their benefit will be 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 times greater than the benefit of practicing the 5 paramitas, excluding the paramita of obtaining wisdom, for a period of 800,000 million nayutas of kalpas, which is an extremely long period of time. The paramita of obtaining wisdom is excluded because this is the fundamental paramita. It is in a class by itself relative to the other 5 paramitas. Because, right, what would it seem like? It's obtaining wisdom, right? What is that then? It's the paramita of becoming the Buddha. Okay, so it's not really like the other paramitas, which are the steps to get to that point, right? It says, it might be said, it might also be said that the 5 paramitas are practiced to attain the paramita of wisdom, the 6th, okay? Buddhism always places great importance on wisdom. Therefore, Nichiren Daishonin says that practitioners in the latter day of the law who have just aroused the aspiration for enlightenment need not practice the 5 paramitas. In depth, he goes into the detail that they don't have to. In the on the 5 stages of faith and the 4 stages of, what is it? The 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice, okay? If you haven't read that Gosho, you should. That'll lay it all out very clearly. It starts on page, volume 1, page 94. It's one of the 10 major writings, okay? Therefore, Nichiren says that the practitioners of the latter day of the law who have just aroused aspiration for enlightenment do not need practice the 5 paramitas. This view of Buddhist practice, expressed at a time when making offerings to priests, upholding the precepts, and other paramitas were being promoted in earnest, represents a great religious revolution. Moreover, Nichiren Buddhism teaches the principle of substituting faith for wisdom. Correct faith itself becomes wisdom. Everybody understands that, right? Through believing in the Gohonzon, we in the latter day of the law can gain the same benefit as we would by carrying out all of the 6 paramitas, including the paramita of obtaining wisdom or becoming the Buddha. Okay, that's Buddhahood. In conclusion, those who now believe in the Gohonzon and advance toward Kosen Rufu together with the SGI can gain the benefit of the 6 paramitas, just by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Those who persevere in carrying out activities for Kosen Rufu with others lead lives of the highest wisdom, because they will all become teachers of the law. The examples of your many seniors in faith attest to this. When we look back on our lives later on, we can see this clearly. There will be some that advanced and some that didn't. Because we practice faith, let us strive to live most wisely each day based on the principles of faith. Because we practice faith, let us strive to live most wisely each day based on the principles of faith, finds expression in daily life, and action for Kosen Rufu brings about good health. End of chapter 4. Continuing on to chapter 5, page 79. Shari Hotsu Nyorai Chikin Kodai Jinan Muryo Muge Rigimu Shoi Zinjo Geda San Mai Jinyu Musai Joju Isai Mizo Uho. Shariputra, the wisdom of the thus come ones, plural, is expansive and profound. They have immeasurable compassion, unlimited eloquence, power, fearlessness, concentration, emancipation, and samadhis, and have deeply entered the boundless and awakened to the law never before attained. This passage explains the expansive powers of the Buddha. That is, it describes the wonderful state of life that those who embrace the Gohonzon can develop. So what did that just express? The wonderful state of life that each of us has the potential to achieve through faith. Okay? We have the ability to, in this lifetime, express in our lives, through our lives, immeasurable compassion, unlimited eloquence, power, fearlessness, concentration, emancipation, and samadhis. Chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon. And having, and we will all become... we've all entered the boundless and awakened to the law never before attained. The difference between this, it says here, Mr. Toda taught that it explains, let me start again. This passage explains the expansive powers of the Buddha, that describes the wonderful state of life that those who embrace the Gohonzon can develop. Interpreting this passage from the standpoint of Nichiren Buddhism. So again, this interpretation is based on the Ongi-kuten, okay? The orally transmitted teachings. Mr. Toda taught that it explains the state of life embodied in the Gohonzon, okay? Which is what? Your state of life. right? That's the Buddha nature that we all have the ability to access, and it's a shared state. It's a shared condition. It's not individualized. The difference between this, says Mr. Toda taught, the difference between the state of life of the Buddha of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and that of the Buddha of the Lotus Sutra's theoretical teaching is as vast as that between heaven and earth. Just as the sutra says, without having made the slightest effort, this cluster of unsurpassed jewels has come to us unsought. We are given in its entirety the benefit of all Buddhas throughout the existences of past, present, and future. Even though, President Toda continues, even though we have not carried out any practices in the past, by believing in the Gohonzon, our lives become endowed with many varied powers. They actually, the innate powers emerge. And through the principle of the simultaneity of cause and effect, we enter the world of Buddhahood just as we are. We live in the 9 worlds, but we express the 10th world. We become one with the 10th world. As ordinary people, we become Buddhists. He says, as ordinary people, we become Buddhists. Okay? Now, from the standpoint of Nichiren Buddhism, continuing on page 80, these powers are embodied in the Gohonzon. These powers well forth in our lives as we maintain our faith. What a wonderful teaching this is. In other words, they already exist in the Gohonzon, but theoretically, we manifest them in actuality by taking on the life of the Gohonzon in our life.
Yes.
As our life. Inseparable. Okay? Our life and the Gohonzon. Do you understand? That's what's occurring. The function of Buddhahood in our lives. Here, Shakyamuni identifies immeasurable compassion, unlimited eloquence, power, fearlessness, and so on as attributes of the Buddha's state of life. Yours. To put it simply, the Buddha has infinite concern for the people, immeasurable compassion, can freely expound the teachings through words, unlimited eloquence, has penetrating insight into life and the power to discern the causes of people's happiness, unhappiness, power, and has the courage to fully articulate the truth, fearlessness. Does everybody understand that then? Mm-hmm. That's you. Armed with these powers of wisdom, the Buddha dives into the great ocean of the people and while facing persecution leads them to enlightenment through wholehearted efforts. Why does he say leads and while facing persecution? Because if you do that, you will face persecution. Period. The Buddha's immeasurable compassion includes the 4 infinite virtues of giving living beings delight, removing their suffering, rejoicing at seeing beings become free from suffering and gain happiness, and abandoning attachments to love and hatred and being impartial to everyone. The Buddha's consideration toward the people is expansive and infinite. It knows no bounds. In concrete terms, what does immeasurable mean for us as ordinary people? It means not giving up halfway. In spreading the teaching or giving individual guidance in all aspects of the struggle for Kosen Rufu, the important thing is that we follow through and never give up. Whenever we become deadlocked, we can tap inner strength through our practice to the Gohonzon and then challenge ourselves to see how many walls we can break through. This is how we're constantly advancing. Yes. Such faith to advance limitlessly may be characterized as immeasurable. Also, it may be hard to get a practical sense of the meaning of the spirit of compassion. President Toda used to say that courage substitutes for compassion. Our courageous actions as emissaries of the Buddha are comparable to the Buddha's compassionate practices. In society today, if anything, people tend to try to avoid developing relations with others. Ours might be also characterized as a society of envy, where people view the happiness of others with jealousy. In such an environment, SGI members actively seek to develop relations with others out of the desire to help them become happy. Isn't that why you really do shakubuku? Yeah. You may start out doing it because somebody told you to and you get benefit from it, but at a point in time you start to realize the joy that actually occurs when somebody says, really? Oh, I get it. Wow. Makes your day, right?
Right.
Okay. So, yet, in such a society, These compassionate actions are liable to be misunderstood and indeed may be met with great resistance or even criticism. Nevertheless, each day we pray and take action. Did I mess it up? Okay. Nevertheless, each day we pray and take action for others, giving people delight, removing their sufferings, rejoicing at their happiness as if it were our own, and dedicating ourselves to their well-being without discrimination. An immeasurable spirit of removing suffering and imparting joy pulses in the SGI. In this regard, we definitely stand alone. Wherever people, instead of feeling jealous, rejoice at seeing others gain happiness, wherever people can encourage one another, that is a realm pervaded with happiness. And by the way, let me add this from personal experience. When instead of feeling jealous, you can rejoice at seeing others gain happiness, you will then gain happiness. When you have that, if you can identify that you feel that sense of jealousness at other people's happiness, God damn it, that's the reason you're not freaking happy. Seriously. Cause and effect.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Whenever people, instead of feeling jealous, rejoice at seeing others gain happiness, wherever people can encourage one another, that is a realm pervaded with happiness. By contrast, those who go through life constantly comparing themselves to others, consequently seesawing between joy and sorrow, find themselves utterly deadlocked in the end. Because every time you find somebody happy, you become sad. Every time you find somebody sad, you get a little happy because they're worse off than you. That's sick.
Yeah.
All right? As President Toda taught, we need to live our own lives.
Yes.
Just as cherry, plum, peach, and damson blossoms all possess their own unique qualities, each person is unique. Unique. That means there's nobody else like them. We cannot become someone else. The important thing is that we live true to ourselves and cause the great flavor of our lives to blossom, to be the Buddhas that will then turn other people into Buddhas.
Yes.
If we fail to do so, then what is the purpose of our lives? Really, we talked this great talk, but we didn't walk the walk. This is what is the purpose of our existence? There is no need whatsoever to compare ourselves to others.
No.
You don't have to compare yourself to somebody else to be the Buddha.
Right.
Right? Rather, we should consider whether we have grown by comparing how we are now to how we are in the past. Yeah. The Buddhist way of life is to grow each day, always advancing, accomplishing more today than yesterday and more tomorrow than today. That's the only measurement you have to abide by. All right? Earnest faith is the key to a life of freedom. Next, unlimited eloquence indicates the power to freely understand and freely express oneself without hindrance. Unlimited eloquence comprises 4 unlimited kinds of knowledge. Knowledge, complete understanding of the teachings, complete mastery of the meanings deriving from the teachings. 3, complete freedom in expressing the teachings in various languages and dialects. And 4, the ability to preach to all people at will by employing the other first 3 powers. The Buddha has the wisdom to freely understand the teachings and freely expound them. That's what you do when you encourage others from the 10th world. Okay? We should note that while the Buddha appears to do so with composure, this is really key. This is cool. Listen to this. We should note that while the Buddha appears to do so with composure, this is not something that happens automatically. President Toda said that even lectures on Nichiren's writings could be classified as unskilled, skillful, or artistic, pointing out that one does not all of a sudden arrive at the level of artistic. Reaching that stage requires earnest practice and training by doing it over and over again. Okay? Buddhas are earnest. Precisely because they are earnest, wisdom wells forth in their lives. So what does he mean by they're earnest? Buddhas are constantly taking action for the sake of what they're trying to achieve. Okay? And because of that, they get the benefit of wisdom in their lives. How can I send out a message that will touch a chord in each person's life? They continually ask. The Buddhists earnestly weave a tapestry of words. They rack their minds and exercise ingenuity. They bring to bear the power of expedient means. Such efforts find expression in unhindered preaching of the law. So what does that reflect then? If you're thinking those kinds of things, what are you doing? When you're in front of the Gohonzon chanting Daimoku, you're reflecting on your mission. You're doing what he just preceded in the previous few paragraphs talking about, right? What was it? Somewhere, you've got to make the cause. All right? Am I right? Throughout his life at the bottom? Yeah?
Yes.
Throughout his life, Nichiren Daishonin continued to send highly detailed encouragements to his followers. In other words, you have to care. Right? Sometimes he would join them in their sadness. Other times he would admonish them, show them tolerance, or encourage them, all the while sending them words of revitalization, because he had the wisdom to understand what each one of them needed for that to occur. He had a thorough knowledge of the daily life, family makeup, worries, and personality of each follower. To lay nun Shinichi, for example, after her husband Abutsubo had died, Nichiren declared that Abutsubo had definitely attained Buddhahood. He also pointed out to her that her son, Takuro Moritsuna, had himself become a votary of Lotus Sutra, saying, "There is no treasure greater than a child, no treasure greater than a child." He thus expresses delight at the growth of a capable successor. Another follower, the lay nun Kyonichi, was worried about her deceased son's future existence because, as a soldier, he had taken the lives of others. We read all these Goshos. To his mother, the Daishonin explains the teaching that even a small error will destine one to the evil paths if one does not repent of it. Yet even a grave offense can be eradicated if one repents of it sincerely. He explains to her that the child can definitely be saved from falling into the evil paths of existence through the parent's strong faith. Children bring their parents joy, and they also cause them worry. But Nichiren Buddhism teaches that so long as they have faith, parent and child can definitely both become happy because they have an inseparable relationship. The Buddhist preaching is free and unrestricted. It certainly is not rigid or narrow. The Buddha knows how to explain the law in concrete terms and based on firm principles so as to help individuals revive their spirits and create value in their situations, regardless of what those situations are. No matter how dire they may be, they can always have value created from them. Understand that, right? Okay. For this reason, the Buddha puts people's hearts at ease. Nichiren's words encourage and invigorate people. One can imagine his followers' joy upon receiving a letter from him, right down to the look of determination that must have appeared on their faces. Nichiren's writings, transcending their time and place of origin, are a message of happiness for all humanity. They are a living textbook of humanism. They are the supreme inheritance of humankind. Open a path among the people. Okay. Next, power refers to the so-called 10 powers the Buddha possesses. For example, the Buddha has the power to judge people's understanding of the teaching, to understand their various hopes, and to know the state of life of all people. The 10 powers all revolve around the ability to understand people's minds and hearts. This ability, again, represents the crystallization of the Buddha's tenacious efforts in that regard. The important thing is that Shakyamuni used his powers of wisdom to pioneer a path of great happiness among the people. He went out himself among the people to single-handedly spread the teachings, and he called upon his disciples to do the same. Nichiren, too, continually expounded the law to the people. Unless you go out among the people, you cannot understand their hearts. For example, because Nikko Shonin spared no effort in visiting Atsuhara, the lay followers there could carry through with their faith without succumbing to the great persecution that befell them, right? Atsuhara persecution, 3 brothers got their heads cut off. Through Nikko's example, these followers, all of them farmers, came to understand the wondrousness of Buddhism and the Daishonin's greatness soon after they converted, and Nikko stood in the lead among them even at the height of the persecution. Detailed reports went out from Nikko to Nichiren, who was at Mount Minobu. Because Nikko was present on the scene, the Daishonin could gain accurate information and then take accurate measures. It thus became possible for him to send continuous encouragement to and open the hearts of his followers who were in the eye of all of the persecution. Top of page 85. Because Nichiren and Nikko deeply understood the people's hearts, they could provide the greatest encouragement, and the followers of Atsuhara could overcome the persecution. In any age, understanding the hearts of the people is the basis for victory. A genuine leader is a true leader of Buddhism makes the greatest efforts to understand people's hearts, to understand their thoughts, and to understand their struggles. Next, fearlessness means to expound the law bravely and without fear. It indicates the Buddha's unshakable self-confidence in expounding the law. The Buddha is fearless in preaching in 4 ways. The first is in declaring he is enlightened to the truth of all phenomena. That is, he has great confidence in the mystic law. The second is in proclaiming he has extinguished all desires and illusions. That is, he definitely will not be defeated by worries or sufferings. The third is in proclaiming that he has elucidated the obstacles to Buddhist practice and enlightenment. In other words, he encourages others to defeat the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. The fourth is in declaring that he has clarified the way of liberation from the world of suffering and thus the way of attaining emancipation. Now, that said a lot, didn't it? But it really didn't say anything more than you do when you have the courage and the conviction of faith that the teaching states what is your true identity. When you pursue that true identity in this lifetime, you're fulfilling your mission as a bodhisattva of the earth just in that action, right? Mm-hmm. And by doing so, you will develop the courage to understand, number 1, you are the Buddha. You're not full of shit when you say that. You're not being arrogant when you say that. Okay? That's what the teaching says you are. Mm-hmm. If you have faith in the teaching, you better perceive yourself as that, or you don't have faith in the teaching. Okay? Mm-hmm. Then the second is, in proclaiming he has extinguished all desires and illusions. That is, he definitely will not be defeated by worries or sufferings. He's conquered the devil's the faith that keep him from being able to express this innate original state. Mm-hmm. The third is in proclaiming that he's elucidated the obstacles to Buddhist practice and enlightenment. That's nothing more than gaining wisdom again, to be able to encourage others to be able to initiate and sustain the same path that you've already traversed. In other words, he encourages others to defeat the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils. That's what we're doing all the time, overcoming Santoshima, right? And the fourth is in declaring that he has clarified the way of liberation from the world of suffering. That Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the true law for Mappo.
Right.
Okay? So when you take the position of a disciple of Nichiren and express Buddhahood in your present form, even though this sounded like Shakyamuni or somebody much heavier than any of us, in reality we do exactly those same things. Okay? Fearlessness means that when talking about these things, he has no fear. I have no fear. In short, fearlessness means courage arising from great confidence, which you gain from your actions. Right? It's not arrogance. You see this manifest in your life. That's why you know it's not bullshit. Right? If you propagate Buddhism, you are certain to meet with difficulties. Shakyamuni and Nichiren Daishonin, while fully aware of this, launched a campaign of words, their voices like the dignified roar of a lion, against the religious authorities and the political rulers of their times. This is the epitome of fearlessness, standing up against religious authority. Nichiren also urged his disciples to have no fear. He says, if Nichiren's disciples are cowardly, their prayers cannot be answered, because if you're cowardly, you're not being the Buddha. If you're not the Buddha, how can you draw forth the power of the Gohonzon? He teaches that while vigorously chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we should speak out for justice. Last 2 pages, guys. Page 86. He indicates that such actions exemplify the spirit of this passage from the Emerging of the Earth chapter, the 15th chapter. They, the bodhisattvas of the earth, are clever at difficult questions and answers. Their minds know no fear. This passage explains that the bodhisattvas of the earth are skilled at discussing difficult doctrine, and that they have not the slightest fear of their opponents in debate. They are clever at questions and answers, and they bravely stand up even to the most powerful of enemies. If you are fearful, you cannot say anything that will strike a chord in another person's heart, nor will any wisdom well forth in your life. Nico Shonin says you should treasure those practitioners who are skilled in difficult debate, just as the late Master Nichiren did. We should treasure boundlessly those who spread the teaching. This is Nichiren Daishonin's spirit and Nico Shonin's decree. The SGI is a gathering without peer or president of people who spread the teaching. Highly articulate and eloquent people are treasures of Kosen Rufu. All of you. Eloquence does not mean verbosity. It is the power to win others. It's the ability to convey something so that it's believable and embraced by the person you're speaking to. Highly articulate and eloquent people are treasures of Kosen Rufu. Eloquence does not mean verbosity. It is the power to win others' wholehearted understanding. Sometimes even a single word from a person of strong faith is enough to win the full understanding of someone whom not even a great scholar could reach. This is the power of wisdom, the power of character, the power of faith. Amid a storm of calumny, all of you have persistently carried out dialogues of justice, unafraid of the winds of arrogant criticism. Because any of you that open your mouth, you know that that was coming too. Without doubt, you qualify as people of fearlessness. He's talking to all of you as people who are clever in difficult questions and answers. He's talking about you, not someone else more capable than you. Understand that. The Buddha freely spreads the law among the people. This passage further explains that the Buddha possesses concentration, emancipation, and samadhis, and that he has entered a boundless state of life and become enlightened to a great law never before attained. Because he possessed such a firm and unshakable state of life, Shakyamuni could continuously expound the law among the people with boundless freedom. There simply are no Buddhas who spend all their time sitting in meditation. Buddhas are Buddhas precisely because they continually ponder and take action to help others resolve their worries. In that sense, all of you who concern yourselves over and pray to resolve the various problems encountered in the course of advancing Kosen Rufu are most laudable. Each day you grapple earnestly with issues relating to the happiness of friends, the advancement of Kosen Rufu, and the raising of capable people. Having these concerns makes you bodhisattvas. Having these concerns makes you bodhisattvas. And if you don't have those concerns, you're a bodhisattva in name only. For the same reason, you can develop the Buddha state of life, but only as a bodhisattva, not as an in name only. You understand? You have to be doing what a bodhisattva does in order for Buddhahood to emerge from your life. Right? Your actions to challenge the great undertaking of Kosen Rufu are comparable to those of the Buddha. They're exactly the same. As I said previously, the wisdom and powers of the Buddha indicated by this passage are attributes of the state of life embodied in the Gohonzon, and we who embrace the Gohonzon can develop this same state of life. Also, we have, as I have already noted, concentration, emancipation, and samadhis are included in our daily practice of Gongyo and chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. In other words, to the extent that we earnestly rack our brains for Kosen Rufu, to the extent that we take our problems to the Gohonzon, these attributes of the wisdom and power of the Buddha well forth in the depths of our being. This is what it means to read this passage with one's life. In concrete terms, the Buddha's enlightened state of life and wisdom never before attained indicate nothing other than great confidence in the Gohonzon. And next week, chapter 6.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank